Good day, everyone, and a warm welcome to today's Lunch and Learn session entitled Getting to Know the Genesis Provider Network. My name is Kelly Traveley-Hack, and I'm the General Manager of Cannings Employees Credit Union, and I will be moderating today's session. Today, we partnered with Genesis Insurance Brokers and Benefits Consultants Limited to help educate our members on understanding the provider network, which is one of the benefits attached to the GenMed, the medical plan. So before I introduce you to today's presenter, just a few housekeeping rules. Microphones will be muted during the presentation. However, if you have a question, you can place them in the chat box during the presentation, and they will be answered during the Q&A session. During the Q&A session, if you'd like to ask a question, you can raise your hand and your mic will be unmuted. If not, you can utilize the chat box. So today's presenter is Mr. Sean Mitchell, who is the manager in Georgia Medical Support Services at Genesis. Sean has 7 years of experience in the insurance industry, and he has excelled in private healthcare services, hospital healthcare administration, and case management. He is passionate about achieving optimal outcomes for clients and members through service excellence. So Sean is here today to tell us and educate us on the provider network. Sean, I hand things over to you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Kelly, for this introduction. Right now, allow me to share my screen where I have a short presentation on the Medical Support Services Department and also the Medical Provider Network. So let me share my screen right now. Right, so you all can see my screen?
Yeah, Sean, we're seeing it.
Okay, wonderful. So again, good afternoon, everybody. I am Sean Mitchell, the manager of the Medical Support Services Department at Genesis Insurance Brokers. The name of the company is Genesis Support Services Limited. So we are the manager of the Medical Support Services Network, right? So I'm just going into today's session. Right, so for the agenda today, we're going to discuss this topic about Genesis Support Services Limited, useful definitions. We see here Genesis Medical Provider Network, the verification process and important notice, and then we have questions thereafter. All right, so a little about Genesis Support Services. We are a company within Genesis Insurance Brokers, and we are dedicated to organizing and overseeing the comprehensive healthcare of all of our clients' needs. We also handle the pre-certification to patient advocacy. We also handle and maintain a Genesis hotline number, which is 24/7 access for medical cases, and which includes a medical consultant. My department, which is Genesis Medical Support Services Department, we maintain and build the medical provider network. This department, we also provide added service for our clients. We also do preventative medical, which is on site. We also do pre-employment medical, OSHA medical, and we also offer random drug and alcohol testing for our clients. My department, we also handles and plan health fairs. All right, so we are going to, before we go on to the Medical Support Services Department and also the provider network, we want to just go through useful definitions. So I know that some of you all might know this definition, but just a refresher. So we are going for deductible. So deductible basically is the amount that you pay out of pocket before insurance coverage kick in to cover your additional cost. So that's what a deductible is. So we can go on to co-insurance. So the co-insurance is the amount or percentage of coverage or covered medical expenses which must be paid by the insured, the member, according to the plan or according to your SOB. The SOB means the schedule of benefits. And for example, your co-payment can be 75-25, which means that the insurer will cover 75%, while the insured will cover 25% of the eligible expenses. All right, there's also something called an ineligible amount. So that refers to the portion that is not covered by the policy, often due to exclusions or limitations. So that amount must be paid by the member upfront. Right, so we're moving on to the part where you all are interested in, which is the medical provider network. All right, so Genesis Medical Provider Network is a robust network, and we have over 360 qualified registered professionals throughout Trinidad and Tobago. So that is every location. We have providers in the north, south, east, and west, so the clients can access services from them. All of our providers must be technologically advanced. So that means that they must have computer, they must have scanner to join the medical provider network, right? Why we need our providers to be advanced in technology, because our provider network operates on a portal, and that portal can be accessed through a website. Right, so that website, once the member goes to the provider puts their information into that website, that website portal, and it automatically calculates if there's a deductible, if there's a co-payment, and if there's any ineligible charges. And that is an automatic adjudication. Right, so the member verification process. So that is very important to all members once they are using the medical provider network. So let's say that a member selects an in-network provider. It is important to select an in-network provider, because what we're seeing is that a lot of members go to their own doctors, and sometimes their doctors are not on the medical provider network. And then we'll get calls saying that, hey, Sean, my doctor says he's not accepting the card. What is going on? And then once I go through our provider network, I'm seeing that, Dr. Mitchell is not on the network. So obviously he won't be able to put your information through the system if he's not on the network. So the provider must be in a network for you all to benefit from the co-payment or co-insurance. Right, so once you go to the provider, you will present your insurance card and also your identification stating that you're a member of Cannings Credit Union and you're using the Genesis Medical Provider Network. Also, or you can say you're coming through Genesis. What we don't want is that most clients will go in and say, I'm the member of GenMed. The providers don't really know GenMed, they know Genesis Provider Network. Right, so because that is what they sign up on, and that's what they are using, and that's what the platform says, Genesis Provider Network. So it will be best if the members will say, I'm coming through Genesis, or I'm coming to Genesis Medical Provider Network. If that member does not have an insurance card, the provider can still go ahead to provide services to you. Once that is done, the provider can enter your information to the system, and once you are eligible, it will show as approved, and the provider can go in and process that claim. Right? So in that provider portal, the provider will go in, put the relevant information like your name, date of birth, and diagnosis through that provider portal. Again, as I say, it's a real-time adjudication. So that provider portal will calculate the co-payment, also the deductible, and any ineligible charges automatically. right? The provider will then inform the patient or the member how much he has to pay upfront. Also, we advise before you leave the office of the provider, a claim form must be signed. We are not an insurer, we are a broker. So the insurer needs a claim form for us in order to process that claim. So the claim must be signed. Both the authorization section and the assignment of benefit must be signed before leaving the provider or the on-site. All right, so the verification process continues. We have a lot of members complaining that, you know, some of the providers not accepting their card. But what we like to tell members is that to avoid any delays, you can call the provider ahead. So if you're going to Dr. Daniel in the morning, you would call Dr. Daniel and say, hi, I'm a member of Genesis. Would you accept my card, or you're accepting my card? And then you will find out if they accept the card or not. Right? Sometimes there is a high turnover rate at some providers. So for example, we might train one employee at Dr. Daniel's office today, and then 2 months later, Dr. Daniel has a new receptionist. Sometimes that information is not sent to Genesis in real time, so we won't know that there's a new employee, and then we have to retrain them. So it's always advisable to call ahead to make sure that the provider will accept your card. And if they don't, as the second point will say, if a member encounters any difficulty while visiting a provider, they can call our 2 hotline numbers for assistance while you are the provider. So sometimes members would call when they already leave the provider and say, I was at Dr. Daniel's office and Dr. Daniel could not get me on the provider portal. So it is important to call while you are the provider so we can help you with any difficulty that you might face. Also, we can be reached via email. So if you have any, for example, if you have a provider that you want on in a medical provider network, you can always send us an email stating that you need Dr. Paul to be on the network, and you can send us the information and we reach out to Dr. Paul to see if they will be interested in joining the medical provider network, right? So that email address is gss@genesistt.com, and one of our team members will provide any information that you require. All right, so it is, there are some important notices, right? To identify providers within the medical provider network, there is a sticker that will give all of our providers. They can have it on their desk, or sometimes they have it on the door before you enter. So we have Genesis Medical Provider Network stickers, and most of our providers have that stickers at their offices, right? So you can know that they are on the medical provider network. One other we must discuss is that once visiting any specialist or you have any diagnostic services that you need to access, you must have a referral letter. So to go as per Beacon of your schedule of benefits, Beacon requires a referral letter for all specialist visits and also all diagnostic tests like labs, x-rays, ECGs, and MRI. So you must present a referral letter with a diagnosis. To access services through the medical provider portal, you can't access services more than $4,000. So if you go to an MRI center and the MRI is more than $4,000, that means that you have to send in a pre-certification. So that pre-certification will have to come to Genesis. We have a dedicated we have a dedicated email address for all pre-certification requests. So that is precerts@genesistt.com, which I'll provide to you all thereafter. So all pre-certification can go to precerts@genesistt.com. That pre-cert must come with an itemized breakdown of cost and also a referral letter. that will be sent to the insurer, and pre-certification usually takes 48 to 72 hours to process. Once that pre-certification is processed, we will send it directly to the client, which is Canins, or we can also send it to the member and also to the provider. Right. Also important to note that to access services or vision services to the provider portal, as per the scheduler benefits, lens and examination are limited to one person during any 12 months consecutive months. So if you get a lens today, you'll have to wait 12 months thereafter to get a new lens or also vision examination, right? You cannot access both lens and contact lens during a 12 months period. You can either get your contact lens or your traditional lenses. Beacon will not cover both traditional and contact lens during a 12 months period. Also, frames are limited to one every 24 consecutive months. So if you get a frame this month, you'll have to wait 24 months after to get a new frame. Also, on the provider portal and the provider network, hospitals listed on the provider network are for emergencies only and not for outpatient services. So, for example, if you have to do an MRI, or if you have to, to visit, if you have blood work to do, hospitals are not for outpatient services. Outpatient services meaning that if it's not an emergency, you have to be warded, you'll have to pay upfront and claim for reimbursement. So hospital services are not for outpatient services. Also, lastly, as with technology, sometimes the portal might not be working properly. Once that is done, sometimes the calculations are incorrect. However, once you receive the claim form from the provider, and it is sent for processing, once we can make that payment, if there is any underpayment to the provider, we'll have to call the member directly to make that balance of that payment. Again, as I say, sometimes technology works really good. Other times it is a disaster. So with everything, there are calculation errors, but in the event that there is a calculation error and the provider is out of pocket, we'll have to call the member to make that additional payment. This is processed as per your schedule of benefits. All right, so this is the end of my session. And if you have any questions, you can feel free to ask me right now. Thank you so much, Kelly.
Thanks so much, Sean, for sharing with us and for guiding us through how the provider network works, and if there are challenges, what needs to be done and who we need to contact, etc. We do have some questions that were coming in during the presentation. So I have Asha saying here she'd visited Brilliant Optometrist about 2 weeks ago, and they had the sticker, but they told her it was difficult to use. They didn't even try to use the system.
Okay, right. So as I said before, if you encounter any difficulties while at a provider, you can always give us a call on the both hotline numbers that I presented on the presentation. It makes better sense for us to deal with the situation right as you're there, instead of saying, or instead of leaving and then complaining that the provider did not accept your card. So it's advisable to tell us or to call us directly or immediately as you are the provider, so we can actually deal with the situation.
And that's a 24-hour hotline number, Sean?
It is a 24-hour hotline number.
Okay.
However, after hours is for emergency cases. So
Right.
Most providers are closed between 8 to 5 and 8 to 6.
Yeah.
So if we get a call after 6 or 7, 8 o'clock in the night, then it will be considered an emergency.
Okay, great. I see Solange is asking here, must it be a letter? I'm assuming she's referring here to a referral letter. So must it be a letter? What if the doctor has it on the claim form referring you for the test? So it's not a separate letter attached. Would that work?
And that is okay. Once it's on the claim form, you can send us a copy. Sometimes we might not get the claim form immediately. My department might not get the claim form immediately. But what you can do is you can always scan and email that claim form to us with the clear diagnosis, and it must be stamped and signed by the provider. So you can't just send us a claim form with a diagnosis and there is no signature, no stamp from the provider.
Okay, great. Krishma is saying or asking, good morning. If you are required to get a medical test done outside the country, is this covered by GenMed?
Okay, so that is separate and apart from the medical provider network. The foreign provider can't access our provider network. But what you can do is, if it's an elective surgery that you have to do abroad, you'll have to send us a referral letter. Also an itemized breakdown of costs. Also, we'll have to say why you're going outside to do the procedure, if the procedure can be done in Trinidad. If the procedure cannot be done in Trinidad, your physician or your specialist can say that, okay, the procedure is not available in Trinidad, and we'll have to send it to the insurer to process. Right? Most of the time, the insurer will ask for 2 referral letters, so from 2 different specialists stating why the procedure cannot be done in Trinidad.
Okay. Asha is saying she came in late in the event that, okay, in the event that you want to use an optometrist that's non-listed on the provider network, can you provide the claims form, please? She doesn't think she has it. Asha, we can provide that for you. If I'm not mistaken, the claim form might be on our website. If not, just shoot us an email at info@mysecu.com and we'll send you the soft copy of the claim form so that you can have it whenever you need it. It'll just be to print out because it would be the same form being used. Marian is saying, I've obtained a pre-cert for upcoming surgery. The final charges will be determined at the end of the surgery. How do I determine the amount to be paid by me?
Okay, so if you receive a pre-certification, the insurer, which is Beacon, will state how much they're covering and how much the member is liable for. On that pre-cert, it should say that clearly on that pre-cert. However, sometimes once you go into the procedure, things might change. So services might change. The estimate might go up in costs, or there might be, it might not be so high. So it's all dependent on after the procedure. Once the provider sends Beacon the claim form with the itemized breakdown of cost, or item breakdown of services, we will know exactly how to cover or how to settle that claim.
Okay. And do we have any other questions? This is the time to ask. I know we always get questions regarding the provider network. So this is really the time to ask your questions here. Grace, I see Grace has raised her hand. Can we unmute Grace's microphone so that she can ask her question, please? Grace, you should be able to unmute your microphone and you can ask your question.
Okay. Okay, great. Hi, Kelly. Hi, Sean.
Hi. Hi,
I posted
Grace.
a question, but apparently you're not seeing it. What it is, I recently went to the dentist and it came up for me to do a pre-suit. Well, I didn't even know. I was pleasantly surprised that she told me, hey, wait, I think we have the credit union on the network and so on. So, because I was going to pay the full thing out of pocket. But she said that she would do the pre-suit. Is that correct? Because I didn't do the pre-suit. She said that she would do it and submit it. Is it something that I have to do really? Or is it acceptable that the dentist would do it?
Yeah, so once they are a provider on our network, if they need somebody to be pre-certified, normally our provider will send the quotation directly to us,
Okay.
and we will send it off for pre-certification.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome,
Okay.
Grace.
I'm seeing Dominic asking 2 questions. So we have questions in the Q&A box as well as in the chat box. So that's where Grace's question was. So I'm seeing Dominic asking, can you post the hotline numbers again, please? So Sean, did you have I think you had a slide up with the hotline numbers. So if you can maybe just put that slide back up, or you can put it in the chat box, Sean. Type the
Sure,
numbers into the
I will
chat
put
box.
it in the chat box. Yes.
Great. Dominic is also asking, why does it take so long for claims to be dealt with? She's made claims for one of her daughters since August, and she hasn't yet received a reimbursement.
Okay. So I will have to get back to you concerning that. We're here today with the provider network. So the provider network, we don't settle or adjudicate reimbursement claims. That is a separate department, which is the Health and Life Department. However, I will take your information and I can liaise with the manager of that department to find out exactly how or why your claim is taking so long for reimbursement.
And what we can also do, Dominic, if you want to, if it's a particular claim, you can email me with the specifics, and I can actually forward it on to Sean, copying the other managers into it so that that response could be, an update at least can be obtained for you. Marian, I see Marian has her hand raised. Can we unmute Marian's microphone so that she can ask her question? Also, Sean has posted the hotline numbers in the chat box so that you guys can take note of that and keep it for further reference. Marian, are you able to unmute your microphone to ask your question?
Yes. Yes.
Okay,
Are
great.
you
Go
hearing
right
me?
ahead. Yes,
You're
we're
hearing
hearing
me?
you. We're
Right.
hearing you.
Thanks. Lovely. Thanks for that. I have a follow-up question on the pre-suit.
Sure.
With respect to the amount quoted for my payment, right? My concern is if after the surgery, the figures differ, am I to pay what is quoted as my portion on the suit? And if the payment goes in and my payment is now less after recalculations, would I then be reimbursed?
Yes, so if the quote is less, you will be reimbursed according to the payment that is made to the provider. So your upfront payment, if your upfront payment is more than what Beacon processed thereafter, yes, you'll get reimbursed. Most of the time, you'll get reimbursed by the provider because you pay them upfront.
Right. So I must pay what is stated on the pre-suit.
Correct.
Right. Okay, fine. Thanks a million.
You're welcome.
You're welcome. I see Denise has her hand up as well. Can we unmute Denise's microphone so that she can ask her question as well?
Hi,
Denise, I think you can ask. Yep, go ahead.
So sorry, I hope you can hear me properly because I'm still driving.
Yeah, we can hear.
Okay, great. Normally it takes 21 working days to process, but is that really reflective of the amount of time it takes to process that the claims? Because somehow what is the real time frame to look out for a refund? 1 and 2, are we supposed to pre-cert optical? Because I'm wondering if that is why more than 21 days has gone by. I don't know. I'm trying to figure it out.
Okay, so I believe you're speaking about a reimbursement claim. I will also have to take that information and relay it to the Health and Life Department to find out exactly why it is taking so long for the reimbursement claim. Your second question is that if you can pre-certified vision estimate. Yes, you can. Once you go to your provider, the provider can send us the estimates, and we can send it to the insurer for processing. That will take about 48 hours. However, it must be a provider on the network. If it's not a provider, that is okay. We can still pre-certify it. But most of our providers on the network will send it to us directly, which is the estimate. We'll send to the insurer, and that will take 48 hours to process. But yes, you can pre-certify vision.
So is it advisable that we pre-certify vision and everything? I don't know.
It
Well,
is.
Says.
Yeah, it is totally up to you. So if you have, for example, as I said before, if you have services more than $4,000, yes, you have to pre-certify it. You can't use the provider portal for any services more than $4,000.
Okay. All right.
Right.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
No problem. Well, I mean, Denise, from personal experience, I've pre-certified for vision. Because my lens is fairly expensive. I decided, okay, you know what? I didn't want to be out of pocket for such a long period, so I actually did the pre-certification. Got the estimate from my optician, and I don't believe they were on the provider network. But Genesis did the pre-certification, and when I went to pick up my glasses, I really was just paying the differential.
Correct. Yes.
So it's not, yeah, it's not too difficult, but yeah, really, I think it would be up to the value, you know, how much the total bill is coming up to there, if it's under the 4,000. Okay, Dominique, I see you have your hand raised. Can we unmute Dominique's microphone so that she can ask a question? Dominique, you should be able to unmute your microphone to ask your question. Dominique, you're hearing us? Okay, while we're waiting, I'm seeing here that Asha is asking, isn't pre-cert for a certain amount that you can't go over?
No. So once there is an estimate for a pre-cert, the insurer will cover up to the maximum benefit, right? So if your pre-cert is 20,000 and the insurer is only paying 10,000, so that's what they will pre-certify up to.
Do we have more questions coming in? Sean, I'll ask a question simply because I've had members ask about this as well. And I mean, hopefully you'll be able to answer this. When it comes to dental, we have persons who they may have to have, so not the normal fillings or extractions and things like that, but a lot more costly in terms of like implants. How would you treat with that type of claim? That would definitely be
Well,
I
it
want to
will
say
have to be
pre-certification for
pre-certified.
sure.
Most
Yes.
definitely. It'll have to be pre-certified. We'll just
Mhm.
have to do it as usual. We'll send us the pre-certification information, the estimate, and we'll have to send it to the insurer for pre-certification. So yes, it has to be pre-certified.
Okay, and that would be under dental? Yes?
It will be covered under dental.
Okay. Dominique is saying she's not getting her mic to unmute. Okay, if you would like, you can type your question in the meantime. Oh, okay, right. I just apparently asked a question for her, so that's
Okay,
good.
great. Good job, Kelly.
Sean, I know you. You're welcome. I know you mentioned before that if you have a service provider who's not on the network, that members can email Genesis to inquire about that service provider coming onto the network. Are there certain, well, I'm sure they are, but what's the criteria for service providers now joining the network?
Okay, so we need our providers to be a little technologically savvy. So because when we do that, because as I said before, it is a online portal. So they have to have internet service. They have to have a scanner because they need to scan and email the claim form to us. Also, they have to be registered because we don't want any person just coming on the provider network and they're not registered. So they
Right.
have to be registered with the appropriate board. They have to have internet and computer and actually a scanner. So it is not that difficult, but we just need some information, which also we'll have to send them a contract to sign. So once we get in contact with them, we'll tell them exactly what we need and they will sign the contract and they can be on our network within a week.
Okay. And is there a cost to the service providers? I ask this because, as you know, we're the ones who would be in these service provider offices seeking different services, and we would be also the ones inquiring. Well, you know, maybe you should join the Genesis platform. Is there any cost to the service providers
No
for joining?
out-of-pocket costs at all to them. Yeah,
Okay.
so it's
Okay, because
we call
that's
it
a
like
positive. Yeah,
quotation
that's like a
free.
little
Yeah,
selling point.
correct. Yes.
Okay, great. Dominic is saying, I'm sure this was asked before, so forgive me. Do I bring the estimate for the surgery to SECU and they will pass it on from there? What she's referring to is her daughter has dental surgery in 3 weeks.
Okay, well, yes, you can channel it through the credit union, and the credit union usually send it directly to us. So yes, so you can keep that channel, and once we receive it, we'll send it to the insurer for approval.
Yeah, and Dominic, you can always copy me in when you are sending that email so that I would actually I'd see it coming in and kind of follow up a little bit on it. That's not a problem. Welcome. Do we have any more questions? We're coming to the end of our Lunch and Learn session. So this is the opportunity to ask the questions, and also just a little reminder that our open enrollment for the GenMed plan, it's up until the end of November. So that if you are under the age of 45, you have immediate family who's under the age of 45 and are members of the credit union and would like to join the plan, this is the time to apply or enroll for the GenMed plan. During the open enrollment under the age of 45, it means that you're coming on during open enrollment, meaning you don't have to do any medicals and whatnot. So this is the opportunity. This is to, you know, grab that opportunity. Last call. Last call for any more questions on the provider network. And the provider network listing is also located on our website. Sean, has that listing been updated recently? Do we need to get a new listing or?
Yes. So
Yes.
I will send it to you again. However, we forwarded a verification process for you and that document has a link to the live updates on the provider network. So anything that we add or remove, it will be automatically updated.
Oh, great. So we can actually send that link out to our GenMed members.
That is correct. Yes.
Okay, great. So we will do that. That'll make it pretty simple because members can then just check the link and scan it very quickly to see who's on that provider network. Yeah.
Correct.
Okay. Marian is saying my preset was passed through a credit union. I was advised by SECU that it would take 7 days, but I was pleasantly surprised to receive the approval in 2 days. Well, that is very good news, Marian. I'm very happy that you got your preset in less time than you expected.
Wonderful. Great.
Great. All right. Well, if we have no more questions coming in, I think we can look at doing the wrap up now. Let me just make sure. Let me check the Q&A box as well because there are questions sometimes that pops in there. Nope, nothing there. So I think that we can start the wrap up at this point. So Sean, I wish to really thank you for giving up your time to facilitate today's session and for really going through in detail with our members all about the provider network and answering the questions and also providing little things like the hotline numbers and even a little thing that there was something that you said there that the providers don't always know, or they may not know GenMed, but they know Genesis.
Correct.
So that
Yes.
when you go in and that actually might be something that might be the crux of a lot of it sometimes that you go in, we know GenMed, we're on the GenMed plan. But when you go to the service provider, we can't tell them, well, are you guys on GenMed? Because they don't know that. So we have to remember to say Genesis.
Yes.
And
Or
that's
just the Genesis provider network. Yeah.
Genesis provider network, exactly, because that's a critical thing there, right? I mean, thank you for sharing that with us, for sharing the email addresses, the the hotline numbers and whatnot to make this process a lot smoother and simpler for members because the provider network is so important. There are times when, you may not have, or you're not able to be out of pocket for all this money, and the provider network helps if they can, insurance takes their bit and then the member pays the differential. So thanks so much for
Correct.
sharing with us and explaining to us really how the provider network works.
Wonderful.
A very special thank you to Genesis Insurance Brokers and Benefits Consultants Limited for partnering with us on this educational session. And we do look forward to working together on future initiatives. We would have done the lunch and learn last week, which was more focused on the actual claims and understanding your EOBs. And then this one today is more on the provider network side. And these sessions really helps the members understand better how to utilize the plan and how to read their EOBs and whatnot. So just for the members' information, today's session has been recorded and it will be placed on our website, www.mysecu.com, along with today's presentation, so that down the line you can refer to it. If we have any members who would have registered but then not able to log on to today's Lunch and Learn, you can always go to the website and look at the recording for future reference. So we've now come to the end of today's Lunch and Learn session, and we want to thank everyone for joining us, and we hope it's been an insightful session, a helpful session. We also wish to thank our members who have logged on to our webinars and Lunch and Learn sessions throughout 2023. Today is actually the last session for the year. We've done quite a few webinars and Lunch and Learn sessions on various topics, and today is the last session. So we want to thank our members for logging in, joining us, and learning more about SECU and the products and the services that we offer, and also, learning from the variety of topics, the educational topics that we provide. And we really look forward to offering you many more educational sessions as we head into 2024. So we want to thank everyone again for joining us and wish everyone, well, it's around lunchtime, so enjoy lunch and everyone be safe. So thanks a lot for joining us, everyone. Bye.
Wonderful. Thank you, Kelly. Take care.
You're welcome.
Bye.
Bye-bye.